Good morning. My name is Satya Rose Conway. I have the honor of being the mayor of Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm delighted to introduce the introduction. There's a lot of introduction going on here of this next panel. I hope you all are having a good time so far. This feels like a really good place to be in right now, with a bunch of people who care about sustainability. Some people really care about sustainability. So I want to say a big thank you to the folks at Sustain Dane for organizing this, but also a thank you to all of you for being in community around sustainability and for coming together to celebrate the work that we do here in Madison and Dane County and Wisconsin around sustainability. This work has always been and will always be work that has to happen at the local level. We know it's our responsibility, and we will keep doing it here in Madison and in cities all across the country and frankly all across the world, no matter what. So thank you for being part of that. We know at the City of Madison specifically that building an equitable, sustainable future is a collaborative effort. It's something that we're committed to, it's something that my administration is committed to, but we can't do it alone. We have to have all of the partnerships with the private sector, with nonprofits, with other institutions, and with individuals all across our community. The work that we've done, from expanding access to public transit with our new bus rapid transit system. I hope you're riding the bus. Those bendy buses are really fun. So we've done a lot of work around transit and transportation. We've also done a lot of work to reduce energy waste in our community through the Building Energy Savings Program. And I just want to give a huge shout out to the City of Madison sustainability staff here. So wave please. Jessica's here, I know Greg's here. And these folks work really hard. The Building Energy Savings Program was a huge lift. It was a huge lift to get the legislation passed. And as most of you know, just because you passed a piece of legislation doesn't mean that you've implemented the program. So it's been a huge lift for them after the council passed this program to actually get it implemented and up and running. And it's not the only thing that they're working on, but I'm really grateful for our sustainability team at the city. You know, we're working hard in a number of ways at the city to cut climate pollution, our own climate pollution footprint, and we're about 3/4 of the way there to being 100% renewable. I know the county's already there. Good for them. Yay, Dane County. It's not a competition at all. But we are working hard to get there. But not just for city government, right? We're working hard to make it easier for our entire community to reduce their climate pollution footprints. And that is harder work, but it is made easier by the work that all of you are doing. And so again, I want to say thank you to all of you for being in partnership with us to make it possible for our community to be as sustainable as possible. And we know that we do this work not just because we want to cut climate pollution and, you know, save the planet, but also because it's actually better. It's better for our economy, it's better for public health, it's better for our quality of life. And so there's lots of reasons that we're in this fight together. And so I am really grateful for the passion, the dedication, the creativity that all of you and many more individuals and organizations in our community are bringing to the table to create positive change. And I'm really excited to introduce this local Sustainability Wins panel and to help celebrate the work that these really outstanding sustainability leaders have done. And you're going to hear about how impactful and innovative that work is. The projects that are going to be showcased here are varied. We got high-tech labs, we got art spaces, we got restaurants, but all of that has a role to play in building a more sustainable future for our community. I started here, and I'll circle back around. It really does take all of us, right? And it is really at the local level that the biggest differences can be made. So it really doesn't matter who you are or what you do. There is a place in your life and your job for sustainability work. And I think that's important for us to remember, but also to remember that we don't all have to do it alone, right? That's what today is about. It's about having our community together and understanding that there are pieces that we do, and we all do the best that we can in our own lives, but all of that adds up, and we are stronger together than each of us is individually. So I'm inspired by the work that you're about to hear about. I'm inspired by the work that I know you all are doing, and I hope that you will be inspired too, because inspiration is a really key ingredient for action, right? We hear these stories and we think, I could do something like that. Or, that's a really interesting take on it that I haven't tried before. Maybe I can go back to my office and think about, what if we could do that? I do this all the time. I look at other cities all the time. What are they doing? What could I be doing? What can I steal from them? And so I hope that you find in this panel ideas and lessons that you can put into action, whether that's at your home, at your workplace, or in our community more broadly. So thank you again for being here, and please help me welcome the moderator for the program, Lorenza Isabel.
All right, I'm going to test this microphone. I'm wearing a fancy lathe microphone. Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay? Yeah, all right. Awesome. All right. Great. Well, good morning, and thank you for joining me for this next section of the program to talk about local sustainability projects making a difference. If we haven't met, I'm Lorenza. I facilitate Sustain Dane's workshops, and I use she, her pronouns. Working with many of you over the years, I know a lot of faces in this room. I'm loving that today. Very friendly group. It's been so rewarding, and I'm excited to see what next year brings, because it just keeps getting better and better. So I hope that these stories that you'll hear about today will help you learn more about what's happening locally to reach our climate goals, but also I want to inspire you to continue your own journey, your own sustainability journey. That's what we call it here at Sustain Dane, because you're able to accomplish the amazing things just like you'll hear from these panelists. And as a side note, that's a big part of my job at Sustain Dane, assisting you with your goals. So reach out to me and schedule a coffee anytime. Believe me, I'm always down for more coffee, so get something on my calendar. It's in my email signature. That's how much I want to meet with you. So this presentation today showcases 2 quick panels of 3 local leaders who will share those stories of their successful projects, and then we'll end with a discussion at your tables. Although these projects are all different and may not be in your industry, our speakers all have gone through kind of setting up and seeing through a project to its end and have a lot of wisdom to share. So listen and listen for advice and takeaways that you can take to your own organization or community. And then if you do have questions, we will not have time for a Q&A during this portion, but the panelists will wait up by the stage after the portion and before lunch. So our first panel here, there we go, features projects that focus mostly on reducing energy use at these 3 featured organizations. I'm joined by Heidi Umhoefer, a development scientist at Illumina, who has transformed their lab practices by changing energy use for their refrigeration systems. And also with us is Tony Wantoch, the director of facilities at the Overture Center for the Arts, who will share practical steps that he has taken to reduce energy use, including resource-efficient water softeners. And then finally, we'll also hear from Toby Grabs, the Director of Operations at Holy Wisdom Monastery, about their state-of-the-art net zero energy facility. And just one more note before we start, I'd like to point out that even though these speakers' official job titles might not explicitly use the word sustainability, that word we use so much, I'm always tripping over it, they are actively choosing to incorporate sustainable practices into their work regardless of their role. So these are people that are actively choosing to work on it, and we can all do that as well at our own organizations. We can all be leaders in sustainability. It just starts with a project like the ones we're about to hear about. So let's start with you, Toby, and then I'll have each of you kind of briefly introduce your role and comment on why you choose to work on sustainability.
My name is Toby Grabs, and I am the Director of Operations at Holy Wisdom Monastery. While I'm up here, I also represent Holy Wisdom Monastery and the sisters at Holy Wisdom Monastery. I am super honored to be there. We have a retreat center, we have a church, we have 130 acres of restored prairie, and really the core of the organization are the Benedictine women of Madison. Those are the sisters. And so I'm here, but I'm representing them. I wouldn't have this amazing opportunity to work at such an amazing place if it wasn't for their view and dedication to the environment.
Thank you. And Heidi, why do you choose to work on sustainability?
Hi, I'm Heidi Umhoefer, and I'm a development scientist at Illumina, which is a biotech company that makes genome sequencers. It's mainly located in California, but we do have a small manufacturing site here in Madison in Research Park. My job title doesn't have sustainability in it, but for any of you who've ever worked in research or the medical field or biotech or pharmaceuticals, you know that it's a really high environmental impact field. Like, it uses a lot of energy, it creates a lot of waste, it uses a lot of water. So I feel like just being in that space, it really gets you thinking about, what can I do to change this? So I feel like that's the driver for me.
Great, and Tony?
Hi, I'm Tony Wantoch, Director of Facilities for the Overture Center, right downtown. We are in a building that does a lot of different kinds of performing arts, Broadway shows to local theater, to conferences, to anything like that. And a building that size is, 495,000 square feet. It's open every day of the year, and we just hit our 20 year, right? So we built the building back in 2004 around another building built in 1927. And as we hit these 20-year marks, and we have water softeners, we got boilers, chillers that all have that 20-year life expectancy. So as we start looking forward to the next, project and the next project and the next project, it's our responsibility, I think, as anybody that's going through the operational efficiencies to make sure that, we're taking sustainability at the forefront of that as well.
Great, thank you all for being here today. Okay, let's talk about some of your projects. Toby, Holy Wisdom Monastery is now a net zero energy facility, and that's a super impressive achievement. Can you walk us through the initiatives that you're most proud of to get there, and kind of what were your first steps towards this huge goal?
Sure, and let me just step back by saying the why, because I didn't really cover that in the first response. The sisters of Holy Wisdom Monastery, they choose sustainability. It comes from their values of stability in a particular space, commitment to caring for the earth, and which is our common home, working for the common good, doing the right thing in the face of climate change. And what motivates them, what motivates us, is a commitment to caring for the earth and common good, and that comes out of their Benedictine spiritual tradition and values. And so what the project actually started back in 2006 or thereabouts. We had a large building that was being used. It was quite inefficient, and the sisters kind of struggled with how to make this building work for them, and the decision was made that it was too big, it's too inefficient, and so they made the decision to knock it down, and then in its place eventually build a green LEED certified building. So that was kind of the first step, was to get rid of an older building that was no longer serving a purpose and was using a whole lot of resources that it shouldn't be using. And with that, then they built, using an intentional effort to go LEED certified, they built the new monastery building. It was, in 2010, was LEED certified platinum and was one of the highest LEED certification buildings of all time. And so that was kind of step one, was to get rid of the inefficient and replace it with something more efficient. We then did 2 installations of solar panels, and the 2 installations of solar panels over like 5 years then got us up to about 60% of our electrical usage was being provided through sustainable means. But then our retreat center was built in 1954 and had a natural gas boiler, which was fairly old. We then were presented with an opportunity because the boiler was failing, and we decided to apply for some, with the Office of Energy Innovation, a grant. We got $575,000 to go net zero energy. With that money, and then also with the Inflation Reduction Act money, it was much cheaper to replace the old natural gas boiler with geothermal. And so that's what we did. We're now off of natural gas for the heating and cooling of that building. And with that and our 2009 monastery building that's also net zero, that adds to the net zero energy, and with that we are the only net zero energy retreat center in Wisconsin.
Thank you for sharing that journey. And Heidi, so you're kind of on a different side of that type of story. You work in the lab, but you started this energy consumption project, even though you're not a facilities person. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what inspired you to start?
Yeah, thanks. So my project involved raising the temperature on our ultra-cold freezers by 5 degrees. And you might be thinking, like, wow, that's your big project, but it is actually a really big deal, and I'll tell you why. So each of these units actually, they're kept at such a cold temperature that just one of them consumes as much energy as an entire household. And my site's not even that big, and we have 30 of them. These are very common in labs for sample storage. So making changes to those can have really big impacts. In fact, just raising the temperature 5 degrees can save 15 to 20% of the energy that it's using. And minus ADC, which is what they're usually set at, is kind of an arbitrary number that the industry just uses, and most samples, in fact, don't really need to be kept that cold. So this was the project we decided to move forward with, and it actually had really good financial benefits for us. It's projected to save about $5,000 a year in energy costs and have emissions reductions equivalent to about 2,000 gallons of gas. So it's kind of a small but mighty project.
Awesome, thank you, Heidi. And Tony, I understand a recent project that you're proud of are your efficient water softeners. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I was sitting up here saying I was a net zero building like Toby. Hopefully in 6 years I can come back and say that.
Nice.
But one of our starting points, and when you start looking at all the sustainability and all the costs that we have, and what capital projects are we going to do next year, and the plumbing on our building was getting very, very expensive. We have chillers, 2 centrifugal chillers and towers on the roof, and we're pumping a lot of chemicals in there to make sure that water's not so hard and causing $1 million worth of equipment failures, and we have Griswold valves all through our ceilings and for our HVAC systems, and those are failing, and those are all like custom as the pressures change throughout. So we're spending roughly about $1 million annually on plumbing supplies. So that'd be our chemicals that we're putting into the chillers, the chemicals that we're putting into the boilers to stabilize the water, and then just all the plumbing repairs. So we started looking at it like, well, what about the water? What if we scaled the water and got it, softened? How much less would we need in chemicals? How much less would we need here? How much less would we spend in the plumbing repairs? So we really had to analyze it and go back to those spreadsheets, those who love spreadsheets, and figuring out the return on it. And we figured that with a small investment on water softeners of, let's say, $180,000, I think it was 183 something, but $180,000 investment on these water softeners, we should be able to get a return as quick as 2.3 years, and then we'll be softening the water. We do 1 million gallons of water through our facility every single month. So softening 1 million gallons of water per month, I pretty much had a lot of people look at me and say, no. I'm like, okay, but we got to find a place. We got to plumb it in. We got to find a way, and we did. We found a way. We took a mechanical space. We put in the water softeners. Now I'm happy to say, like, our plumbing repair, I mean, this thing's paid off. It's paid off in 9 months. So as quick as I was, optimistic to have a return in 2.3 years, we got it in 9 months. So very proud of that. And so much less chemicals.
All right, back to Toby. So with Holy Wisdom's environmental stewardship going back to the 50s, I know you must have overcome many challenges in that whole journey to net zero. So can you recall a challenge during your path to net zero, and what is a lesson learned that you might give others that are earlier in the process?
No, it all went really, really smoothly. I have nothing to add. No, all sorts of challenges. One of the challenges was in our original grant proposal to the Office of Energy Innovations, we were going to add a 110 kilowatt hour generator, and kind of at the last minute we were notified by MG&E that that adding that to the system would require a fairly expensive engineering study, and that was disappointing, but certainly understandable that they need to pay attention to the currents that are going onto and out of the grid, and so we had to then at the last minute, it was actually the battery was already delivered on site, and so we had to then remove that because the engineering study would have been over $100,000, and we didn't have the budget for that. And so we had to remove that last minute. Thankfully, the Office of Energy Innovation allowed us to adjust the proposal, and because even with the battery removed, because we sufficiently upsized the solar array, we're still net zero energy. So I think they wouldn't have been quite as understanding, Office of Energy Innovation, quite as understanding if we hadn't had the foresight to upsize the solar array, but we had upsized it, so even without the battery, we're still net zero energy. So that was a big surprise. And then I think also funding, just the cost is pretty big, and having all your ducks in a row, and having the decision makers, convincing them. Those are all challenges.
Do you have anything to add on how you may have talked to a decision maker and talked them into an idea?
When the Inflation Reduction Act, when more was known about that, and we were able to show some of the decision makers that it would have been with the grant dollars and Inflation Reduction Act incentives that it was cheaper to go geothermal and net zero energy than it would have been to just replace the old natural gas boiler with another natural gas boiler. That's where the rubber hits the road, where you can say, well, it's actually cheaper because of this.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you. And Heidi, what were some of your biggest challenges in your refrigeration project, and how did you overcome them?
So I think it's always hard to make changes when something's the status quo, but I think it definitely helps when you can show the benefits of the finances, and when you work for a company that has a lot of good environmental goals, that you can show that you're reducing emissions. So I think the hardest thing for my project was that, sorry, excuse me. Take a sip of water. The hardest thing for my project is that we work in a highly regulated environment, so not only are you trying to change the status quo, but you also are up against like documentation and paperwork that needs to be changed. So I think for me, it involved getting a lot of the right people in the room. Like that involved a lot of different teams, like facilities, quality assurance, our equipment engineering team. So I think the first step is, first of all, being able to show the benefits of a program like this, and then also getting the right people in the room on your side.
Nice. Yeah, we always say you can't do it alone. Even a project of a few degrees refrigeration change, you need a big group of support. All right, so Tony, how about you? What are some of your challenges and lessons you've learned, either from the water softener or from any of your many energy projects over the years?
I would think that the biggest lesson I've learned and continue to learn, because I don't know it all yet, is that you have to be like very patiently persistent, right? Like all of our stuff, so for me especially too, because we're a nonprofit with a board, and then we have a capital projects team, and we have no CEO anymore, right? So we have this shared leadership model. So it's a combination of a CFO, our COO, our development team, our programming team. So anyway, so we get these executives, we got to put these plans together, we got to get our capital project approved by the board, and then we got to get it through a building committee, and then it comes back down to our capital, our capital investment team. And then from there, you schedule it, but that's all like a year ahead. So anything that we're doing, like a water softener project, or if it's a chillers or the boilers or any roof or anything like that, it's something that we planned 2 years ago and getting estimates 2 years ago, and now hoping that contractor's still in that same ballpark, and these prices still work, because if they're not, you start over again, right? So you have to be very persistent, but try to remain patient. And I'm kind of in the world now that we all live in, and if we want it now, get it now kind of thing, right? Thanks to Google. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So sometimes you just always got to remember, just keep doing it, keep doing the due diligence, keep that estimate going, keep the communication going, stay in front of it, get it to all the hands that need to be, and plan it. And so we kind of look at it now 5 years. Like every 5 years we're thinking ahead, what's next. And then we got like A, B, C's. We got B's that we can bump up and replace A's. So even though we're planning on doing something this year, something could fall off and get bumped, and then we bump up the next one. So it's a collaborative team effort. It is definitely not me alone or anything like that. It is solely this huge team of people that work together very, very close, and keeping that up, I just can't stop.
Yeah, nice. I'm hearing some themes here. Team effort, justifying using cost savings, but also using climate goals or emissions reduction goals, and persistently patient. Things don't happen overnight. All right, so we're on to our last question for our next panel. For all three of you, just online in a few words, what is the next sustainability initiative that you're excited to work on at your org?
Good, Gregory. We just put together a net zero energy retreat center. But for real, there's really not enough time in this discussion here to talk about the like the size of the project, and I think that relates to what what we're doing next, and that is to let others know about what we did. An important part of the first part of our project, the building of our LEED certified monastery building, it was built at a similar per square foot cost as non-LEED certified buildings. So I think one of the things that is important for us is to continue to spread the word at Holy Wisdom Monastery. We want to invite people to come and do retreats there. We want to invite people to come and do tours there. We want to continue to get in the newspaper, and we want to, with organizations like Sustain Dane and the other organizations represented here, keep on spreading the word, and one of the things I think is to show that it's totally possible, that it doesn't take a whole lot extra. Sometimes it's just like intention. So I think that's next, is continue to spread the word and get people onto our site and tell them show them what some of the stages are and how to go net zero energy.
Nice, yeah, we call that the ripple effect here at Sustain Dane. And I would highly recommend a tour of Holy Wisdom's facility. It's really beautiful. And Heidi, what's something you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so I think the next thing I'd like to tackle would probably be some like lab plastics waste that I'd love to reduce. I think that's a really difficult issue because sometimes they can be contaminated with hazardous things, and they also are often difficult to recycle plastics. But I think as a community that has a lot of biotech and research in the area, this is going to be like a growing problem for us to address.
Thank you.
My turn.
Yes, your turn.
Right now for us, we're looking solely right at our chillers. We've done so much work trying to find the opportunity. Again, 20-year-old system, trying to find it. But when our building was built, right, you had engineers design a system on a perceived concept use of that building. Buildings change; they become their own creature, if you will. Like our event spaces change, our venues change. So, did we really need a 750-ton chiller with another 750-ton chiller backup with no variable frequency driver? Probably not. But at that time, we thought so. So, doing some math, doing some calculations and engineering studies, finding that a 510-ton chiller with a variable frequency driver could end up having a 60 to 70,000 per year annual electricity savings. So I'm excited to do that. We're not all the way there yet, but we're real close to pulling that trigger, hopefully this January.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time here. And there won't be Q&A, like I said, but the speakers will hang out. They have a lot more to talk about, as Tony was saying. So they'll hang out towards the stage afterwards. So let's give them a round of applause. Invite the second group up to speak with me, second panel group. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so our second group here features 3 projects that focus more closely on waste reduction. I'm joined by Katelyn, Geleynse, production scientist at Promega Corporation. Heidi, you're in luck because we'll be talking about lab plastic recycling. Katelyn has led the charge at Promega, launching an innovative, flexible plastic recycling initiative. Also with us is Kait Rogstad, the Vice President of Human Resources at Therma-Stor. Kait has been instrumental in Therma-Stor's new composting program, which diverts the organic waste from their facility from landfills. And next we have Netalee Sheinman, the owner of local Mediterranean restaurant Banzo, a favorite of mine. She will share about their sustainability journey in restaurant sustainability and challenges that she's seen there. So we'll begin the same as our last group. Let's start with you, Katelyn. Please briefly introduce your role and comment on why you chose to work on sustainability, even though it's kind of outside your regular job duties.
Sure, yeah. I've kind of always had a really deep connection with the natural world and appreciation for the services it provides. And I studied ecology, and so I've kind of been thinking about sustainability for many years. And I ended up taking a career pivot to work at Promega, which is biotech, which is not what I studied to do. And when I was there and in the labs doing the work, realized the amount of waste that we produce, and it did not sit well with me. And I sort of just realized that if I was going to be sustainable in this job, I was going to have to do something about it. And so it led me to join our sustainability committee and start working on fixing it.
Awesome, thank you. And Netalee, as a business owner in the food service industry, what prompted you to start integrating sustainability into your work?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to mention that usually we hear things like this, so I'm a little out of my element, but I'm going to do my best. Great, that's a good start.
Let's try it again. Okay, and I think everyone heard the first comment. As you can see, I'm not used to this. I'm Netalee, and what prompted us? Well, I've been working in the restaurant business pretty much since I was 15, I think. So it's been a while, and I've always noticed, if I'm going to list all the issues with the restaurant industry, we will be here till tomorrow, but one of the things that I think even people who aren't in the industry but go out to eat, it's very obvious that waste is a big problem. Sourcing is as well. With sourcing, we have other issues that for us specifically, it's harder to address because we are a fast casual restaurant, and I would much rather get our produce from local farms, but we wouldn't be able to do that within our price range unless the government would subsidize or something like that, which hopefully will happen at some point. However, in terms of waste, we decided in 2020 that we can start composting since our menu is so heavily based on produce. And obviously that was more expensive, so at first we had to see if we could even afford it. And once we figured that out, we looked for a local compost company, and we use curbside composter. So.
Great, thank you. And Kait, why do you choose to work on sustainability at Therma-Stor?
Yeah, so growing up, my dad was an environmental scientist, so been recycling and everything like that since I came out of the womb, basically. And so it's something that I love gardening, all those sorts of things that are really fun. And one thing that was really exciting for me to come to Therma-Stor, where I'm working now, with Jason and Billy, who are here with me today, is there has been a very cool sustainability mission that has always been tied to Therma-Stor. And so it's exciting to have kind of a community of coworkers that are just as excited about this type of stuff as I am. And so while I'm the one speaking on behalf of the group, I'm just a portion of the group that is super excited about this topic. And so we love it there.
Nice, yeah, thank you all for being here. And yeah, we'll go back to Katelyn. Promega's flexible plastic recycling program. You can see a picture up there of it. It's a great example of seeing something, waste product, and trying to think a little bit more innovatively about it. What made you pursue this specific initiative, and maybe how did you get started?
Yeah, so at Promega we make a ton of different chemical solutions that get put into various test kits that are used in applications such as forensics or clinical diagnostics. And so a lot of the bottles and cartridges that we dispense into have to be sterile, so they come wrapped in plastic film, sometimes 2 layers of plastic film, as well as a lot of our lab materials such as filters, tubing, all that kind of stuff. So we just kind of realized we have a ton of this plastic film. It can't go in regular recycling, but it's this really clean plastic that you'd think would be desirable for recycling. So we ended up starting with a pilot project, ultimately to collect metrics around how much plastic film we're generating. And we did that by partnering with a grocery store chain, because a lot of grocery stores have plastic bag recycling. And some of them extend beyond just plastic bags to include a variety of plastic films. And so we were able to partner with them so we could use their infrastructure, which was ultimately just a plastic baler, so that this plastic could be baled and sent to a company called Nextrex, which turns it into composite decking. And so we started with this pilot project just in 3 of our buildings, focusing on our manufacturing areas. And within the pilot, we were, as soon as you start pulling out a waste item, you realize how much you're actually putting in the landfill. And to this day, so we recently were able to justify purchasing this plastic film baler, as you can see in the picture, by showing them our metrics of how much we were collecting. And to this day, we have almost collected 45,000 pounds of plastic film.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. And I love this project because, yes, it's a lab setting, but I know larger companies, they get lots of packages delivered with that same kind of plastic film. It's a very hard to recycle material, not a lot of people take it, so finding that source, Nextrex, to take and recycle it is great. I'm sure you'll be connecting with some people to help them with their project after this. And yeah, Netalee, something that I've heard a lot talking with restaurants over the years that is a challenge is training staff on composting. So you can talk a little bit about how you launched that program.
That definitely was a challenge. At first, so the compost we use is literally, at the time it was one guy. I think now he has someone who helps him, but it's just one person that we have a very close connection with. He's wonderful. But basically, initially, he kept finding, how do you say it, like the ties for the parsley and cilantro, all those little metal things, and he would get really upset because he takes it to his farm and he has his chickens, which actually has a great Facebook where he literally films with some commentary his chickens and like mentions which restaurants they're, yeah, it's cool, it's funny. Anyway, so we did have to go through some training, and actually because our compost is in the parking lot, which is in an area where people walk by, it got to the point where it wasn't us. I mean, our staff was doing a really great job, and I think people were just throwing things as they were passing by, and that was extremely frustrating to the point that we actually had to build, we just finished it, we built this giant structure with an actual latch, and since then it's been great, and he's even complimented us on how well it's been going. And we've been, at this point, this is numbers, so I don't want to get it wrong, but it's we've been composting 200 gallons per week, so it's kind of a big deal.
Thank you. I'd love to see every restaurant in our area doing that, and if they need help, they should talk to me.
Oh, and one more thing I wanted to mention is that we did also sometimes have to change some of our sourcing, since he only uses BPI materials, so that was also a challenge because we would have to change our takeout containers, which are always an issue because then you have to change also the training of staff about using the different containers. So.
Great. And Kait, can you describe your composting program a little more? How does it differ in office manufacturing setting? How did you start it, and what maybe were some challenges?
Yeah, so it started, I would say, frankly, because I personally use it at my own home and found it really interesting how much I was just composting instead of either recycling and or throwing it away. Some of the stuff that I think we've found is really cool in partnering with Greenbox is how much you can actually compost that you just don't even realize is compostable. So I would say our group is a very green-minded group. And getting educated on all that they can compost was, I mean, for all of us, we were like, you can't compost that, you can't compost that. And we would work with Ben, and Ben was like, nope, we take it all, we take it all, we take it all. And so that's been really cool and really exciting to educate others on what you can actually compost. So as an example, we historically have done, birthday anniversary celebrations where we would get a big cake from Costco and we would basically, hand it out to all of our employees and then would historically just go throw it away and throw it in the garbage. And so people were sort of like, can't we do something different with this stuff? And so we now, for all of those types of celebrations, we have compostable plates, we compost all of that. We have compostable cutlery, we compost all of that. One thing that was really cool just this past week or so we have a huge Halloween celebration that we always have at Therma-Stor, huge costume contest and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. But we had pizza as part of that, and so in years past it was sort of like, okay, do we rip the tops off of all the pizza boxes and put that in the recycling, but you have to throw out the greasy part. And one of my neighbors actually mentioned that they had brought all of their old pizza boxes to Greenbox. They also use it personally, and so I said, Billy, Jason, can you guys go reach out to Ben and just see if this is something that we could potentially compost? And so we ended up composting, 40 or 50 pizza boxes, which historically we would have thrown a fair amount of that in the garbage due to all the grease on it. And so it's been a really great partnership. It's been really exciting for me personally to learn about all of the things that you can compost. They also have a really cool facility that I would encourage anyone that's interested to go check out. Again, there were so many things that, I was like, I had no idea. This is really cool. So it's been a lot of fun.
Great, yeah. Different systems take different things, and education is always the key to getting people to do the right stuff. And it's great when almost everything is accepted. Okay, so we covered some challenges. Let's go back to you, Katelyn. I want to give you a chance to talk about some challenges in establishing your recycling program, and maybe any lessons learned that you can impart to the audience.
Yeah, so a couple challenges. One is as we've talked about, none of us working on this project had sustainability in our title. So we were ultimately doing this as a side project. And luckily we have a pretty good, vibe at Promega that encourages people to do projects that benefit the organization. So we did have support from supervisors and managers. Another challenge was how kind of quickly this project had to grow, because our initial pilot project, I think the grocery store didn't realize how much plastic film we were going to bring them, so it quickly became kind of an issue of our people are spending too much time bringing this plastic film to the grocery store, and the grocery store can't handle the amount we're bringing them. So that became even more evidence of we need a permanent solution for this, and this is a significant source of waste. And I guess maybe one of the lessons from that is that the first thing you try might not ultimately be the final solution. This plastic film recycling, actually, there were a couple other attempts to start a recycling project through Waste Management, who takes the rest of our waste, prior to us taking up this project, and it hadn't ended up working. So sometimes, somebody said before, persistence and patience can really pay off.
Nice, great. And then finally, for all three of you, I'm curious, what's the next project that you're excited to work on at your org? Yeah, we'll start with you, Netalee.
We are hoping at this point to somehow bring it to the customers. So as I said, we use a lot of compostable materials, and at this point at the restaurant, that is what the food is served in. And if we can, again, I'm saying this hesitantly because that is the goal, but if it's going to mean us looking through the garbage every day, that's not going to be sustainable. So the hope is that we could find a way to at least compost some things and get customers involved, which would also just, hopefully, they can take that home with them.
Awesome. Katelyn, you want to go?
Yeah, a couple things that I'm excited about that our committee is working on is one, our corporate leadership team has asked for some guidelines around holding zero waste events. So we're trying to work on putting that together. We also have a new sustainability specialist who is working on putting together a waste audit, which will help us figure out more materials within our labs that we can divert from the landfill.
Love to hear that. Waste audit, awesome. That's exciting. Zero waste events, very popular right now. We should talk. You're my first coffee. And Kait, at Therma-Stor, what are you guys excited about?
Yeah, so I would say even just from some of the panels that we've listened to today, we were talking at the table around, we have a pretty significant green space behind our production facility, and so we've talked a lot in the past around how can we utilize that space and potentially creating some sort of like walking path, not necessarily the Ice Age Trail, but some small walking path that people could take time out of their day, go for a walk, have some of those walking meetings and different things like that, to be able to utilize the green space that we do have and get outdoors more often.
Excellent. Let's give a round of applause for this group. They'll be here for questions after, but for now, I have some questions for you. I'm going to go back. So I just want to talk a little bit about some key takeaways that we heard. I won't make anyone volunteer here, although I was tempted. Staff was like, no, you got to tell them. So the idea, something that I was hearing today was the idea that you can't do this work alone. I say that a lot. If you feel alone at your org, start having those conversations. You will certainly find some other people that are interested in sustainability because the projects, large and small, they take a lot of work and a lot of hands on deck. So on that point, if it's your first project, start small, build momentum. Something that Tony and I talked about in our prep meeting that we didn't get to today that stood out to me is that some changes are really low cost. But they still can have a really big impact, particularly within energy. So if you're curious about that, come talk to him after. And yeah, I want you, as you're reflecting here, to also be thinking about those kind of key takeaways that you can take back to your organization. And the discussion question I have for you will be, what sustainability initiative do you work on or appreciate in your community? This is something that I like to hear at all of our events because there's so much going on that flies under the radar I don't get to hear about. So I will be asking you to share out and turn to your neighbor or as a whole table, just talk for a few minutes here. Maybe it's at work. If it's not at work, maybe it's in your neighborhood, even at home, and it doesn't have to be something you're working on. It can be something that you've seen that you appreciate. So maybe you were at Banzo and you saw those takeout containers and you're like, oh, great, I can put it in my green box at home. And you'll have about 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll call you back for the share out. All right, go ahead. Sustainability initiative or project that they work on or appreciate in their community. And let's keep them kind of short so that we can get, let's say, 3 shares.
Very quick. Dave Benferato, Madison Gas and Electric. About, where's Leah? Is Leah Sampson in the room? Leah, my colleague Leah Sampson participated in a deep dive of our recycling bin. If you think of MGE and one recycling bin, there are many. She did a deep dive. And her team found out that we MGE employees, did a terrible job of separating. And the powers that be made a decision to take away all of our private trash baskets and our private recycling baskets that we had in our offices. And now we have them dispersed throughout the company, many on each floor. And so to take out the garbage from your office, you need to walk down, you gotta walk down, and so on, and get to your area recycling bin and your area trash bin. And what has been the result, Leah?
I don't remember.
It's been greatly improved. Our recycling stream is much purer. So that's our takeaway and our good news for the day. Thanks.
Also a great reminder to get up from your desk, which is very good for you.
We
Anyone
do have
else?
one over here.
Yeah, oh, cool.
Brady Stagoff. I work for Focus on Energy, and one of the things that I do is make sure people know about us. So the first panel talked about some energy projects that they did, and each one of them got an incentive from Focus on Energy. And I'm kind of curious from the room, who has also received an incentive or a free energy pack from Focus on Energy? Look at that. We do not want to be a secret. We help businesses, we help residents save money on energy, which is one of the top things you can do for the planet. So let your friends and neighbors know we exist.
Time for one more. Any brave soul out there? I heard some people talking about free tables, take what you need tables in their apartment and at work. That's cool. Haven't heard anyone talk about that.
Hi, I'm Jennifer with Findorf, and I started the Findorf Free Cycle. It's just an idea that came to me, and maybe some of you are doing this at your businesses. But we get a lot of swag with our name, and we're not supposed to give that to other community organizations like Goodwill or St. Vinny's. So I started a Findorf Free Cycle where you can put in your old swag clothes and other people can take them. And then anything else of value that you think other people would want, like dishes. We have a lot of interns, they like the dishes and the silverware and stuff. So it all goes in the free cycle, and then I keep an eye on it. And if they're too long, I take it to St. Vinny's. So it's really easy, didn't cost anything.
Awesome, love that. All right, so that wraps up this section. Thank you all again for your participation and for our lovely panelists. Lunch is up next. Wonderful vegan lunch today. And stay tuned this afternoon to hear from award-winning author Esha Shabra at 1:30. She's calling in all the way from California. I'm really excited to hear from her. And then, of course, our annual Live Forward Award winners will be announced, and that's always fun too. So, and don't forget, on your way to lunch, you can check out the raffle table. There's a lot of cute stuff there. Put some yeah.